Oh,
Good.
oh, you prick.
Hello. Welcome to episode 2 of Chatting Shit about not the name, but the Ionic Cup. I'm joined by Aero Bubble, Sharky King, and we do have a third guest allegedly coming, but we'll see when he turns up. How are you guys both doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sound.
Really
Oh, good. Well, before Drew shows up and is Drew, what do you guys think? You know, Wave 1's pretty much over now, right? So, wave system, ranked rounds rather than ranked tournaments. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Now the first one's over.
I'll let Aaron go first. He seems to be the king of wave.
Well, after all of my games in Ember, and then regretted it because I did slightly better in Naiad, but I just want to play more games for ranking. But I understand that obviously not everyone is as obsessed as me.
Fair. But is it a better system, worse system? What do you think?
I think by the end of the next wave, I'll know. Okay. But I do like the way it works, because it means I can once I got those games out of the way, it meant I could play whatever I wanted. Most Open Great Leagues are being ranked now, so I can get my rank stuff out of the way and then test Open Great League stuff. But yeah, it keeps it balanced as well, right? Because no one's struggling to hit 40 over 2 months realistically. Whereas before, you were going to struggle to hit, was it 7 a month? Was it before?
Yeah, it would have been 8. It would have been 42 a month. It was the maximum. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Okay, Jake.
Yeah, so people struggle with that.
What about your thoughts?
So I'm kind of the opposite to Aaron, where I don't do tons of tournaments. I kind of do the same ones, kind of usually a month in every time. So I've enjoyed not having to worry about having to join, a big tournament, a couple of big tournaments, just to try and bump my rank up, because there's only so many battles that actually count. So I think it is right in saying that it's not difficult to get to your 40 rounds, but I haven't, just because I've not been asked to do so. But I think if I'd have tried to, it would have only been 1 extra tournament, maybe 2 extra tournaments, and that'd have been fine. I wouldn't have struggled with that at all. So I think it's a much more accessible way of doing it than the last couple of seasons, where if you're not joining 6, 7 round tournaments, then you're not maximizing what you can do. I think I will have to see what another wave is like Aaron said, but I think I like it. I think it's a good way of doing it. It levels the playing field a bit, which I like.
Fair. Yeah. Well, I'm in a similar boat, right? I've done 34 games so far, and I went to a couple of in-person tournaments that I thought were going to be ranked, but then weren't for a couple of reasons. But that would have taken me to my 40. So it's kind of been nice. And I know Drew likes the wave system, who is supposedly joining us at some point, but only because he doesn't have a history in Quillfish for some reason. So
yeah, I mean, now I traded him one.
He moans frequently about how he evolved it for you guys for a factions match.
So why does he only have one? That's my big question. But that's on him.
My question is, why doesn't he just max out a Hundo Quillfish for Ultra League instead of the Overquill?
That's fair. So he likes it because he was able to play all his games in Naiad and just take Ember off. So
okay, still done terrible.
Sorry?
He's still done terrible. We've not saved him.
He'd have been better off just ridiculously going Gliscor, Charizard all month. Yeah. Fair.
See, I don't think that in Ember, I think obviously Gligar was the better of the two, just because it was that little bit bulkier. Yeah. But I think Gliscor had its place. I don't think
I ran Gliscor all month.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it was a switch downgrade. I think it was very much a side grade and it just did things slightly differently.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you were
Ionic
slightly
Cup.
better against Poly.
Yeah.
Ionic Cup. Then what are we thinking?
Electric types
It
look
reminds-
alright. It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it reminds me of the final one of last season, Architect, because the meta is so small, and it's not really switch based. From what I've seen, there's a lot of neutral matchups, energy and shield flip stuff, left, right, and center.
The famous quote that I will always bring back about you is that leading a Shadow Beedrill into a goal battle, like, oh, it's fine. I flipped this with 7 poison stink, got 7 poison damage. It's going to be one of those kinds of cups.
So,
yeah.
Well, on that note, we'll start with your man, Aaron.
Yeah, so I've gone Beedrill and specifically the Shadow, just because Shadow is almost always better with something that's already soft. Those poison jabs out so much faster here. There's also basically nothing that walls Beedrill, like, at all. There's no flying here. Your best answers are rock types, and I mean, it's rock type. It's a terrible type in general. And there are only 3 rock types in the entire cup, and one of them is like a shadow version of itself. And they all have to be aware of Beedrill's drill run. And also, I think Armaldo, the shadow loses straight X scissor if Beedrill gets like half a turn advantage or something. It's stupid. So yeah, there's basically nothing walling it. It beats the entire meta in the 1-0s and the 2-1s. There's nothing that's stopping it there. On the swap, it's really good as well. I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure it leaves almost every match either farmable or you flip switch. Like from the rating wise, you're looking pretty strong regardless. And I'm expecting it to be on 80% of teams, and the teams that don't have it will have regular Beedrill.
Yeah. So you think there'll be 0 usage across Poliwrath, Sneasel, Celio?
The only ones, this is the problem, is they all look really good, and the only one that I'd considered when looking at was Poliwrath, and that's with Shadow Poliwrath, just for the resistance of the X scissors, so it has to throw drill runs from Beedrill. I think you'll see some Celio and some Poliwrath, maybe an Ariados if you find that one person who doesn't have a Beedrill. Probably Drew.
He evolved it for Ultra League. It's fine.
Oh dear. Yeah. Okay. Fair. I mean, yeah, it does obviously look incredibly strong. But, I wonder if it's the opportunity cost, right? There's this Poliwrath. I love Poliwrath, and in a cut where Umbreon also looks so strong, I think the opportunity cost of not running Poliwrath is Beedrill's biggest drawback, rather than any fault of Beedrill's own, right? So I think.
But doesn't Beedrill beat Umbreon anyway?
I mean, kind of. Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's one of those ones where you can very easily flip either way.
I think I'm assuming regular Beedrill gets on a bit better there, but if you have a good Shadow Beedrill, then you're fine.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Obviously, Poliwrath. You just run Psychic on Umbreon. Just give up the mirror, run Psychic Umbreon, and you'll beat both of them.
Well, they were saying in the last one of this about the argument of the double legacy Umbreon, and
yeah,
so my pick that's going to come up later, I actually somewhat agree with dropping the Dark move because you're not hitting anything. There's there's
no Psychic or Ghost.
There's only Sableye.
So Sableye, Malamar.
And that's in the same pick as That's the same pick as
Umbreon.
Umbreon, isn't it? So Umbreon's just better than Sableye here. And so I think if you're trying to answer a Beedrill with those, I think Umbreon is your better pick just because you could surprise somebody with a Psychic just out of nowhere.
Yeah, somebody will shield the first, like, they just won't shield the first one because it's
exactly.
if it is Foul Play or Dark Pulse, you're going to win it anyway.
Yeah.
But it does. See, my argument for Sableye is kind of the same argument I made for Skuntank, right? In that, like, Umbreon has a side grade in a lot of Eradicate and some restricted. Green and Munchlax have normal cast form and Snorlax to some extent as well. Yeah, the Dark Poisons and Sableye really don't have that. So, like, it's one of those where you'll see them use. You'll see Sableye and the Dark Poison use because there will be holes in teams that only they can fill.
Yeah.
And if you're running double Legacy Umbreon into a Sableye, you're losing a shield advantage straight return, right? And that's just.
But I think you can then. I think if you're gonna run double Legacy Umbreon, you kind of. I think it was you that said it last time, where you've got to build the rest of your team to make them not want to bring Sableye as well. So I think if you're going to do it, you've got to build the rest of your team properly and not just
scaring off Sableye is difficult. Scaring Sableye away is difficult in most cups anyway. Given there's no charm,
you can really do it is
you can flip Umbreon in like the zeros. Is it the zeros with Umbreon you can flip straight return with like 2 Shadow Claws?
Yeah, something like that. What were you saying, Jake? Like you cut out a bit there, mate, about the only way to scare Umbreon off, to scare and Sableye off.
Well, you've got Greedent, which is going to be around, which has got the crunch, and it's bulky enough that it's not going to really care about anything that Sableye's throwing at it. You've got Munchlax, which is around, which has got Lick and Bulldoze. It's a crap move, but it's there. And I know those two are kind of somewhat limited in availabilities. But then you've also got Snorlax, where you could run the roulette wheel and think, oh, have they got Earthquake, because there's going to be a lot of poison darks around, and you could play mind games that way. And Snorlax is bulky enough that you can kind of just throw things at it and it'd be great.
Yeah, and I think the argument for Sableye also is that it really shuts down the tackle users as well. Like we've seen last month how much people like tackle Greedent now we've discovered it. Like I love that thing. But Sableye all of a sudden becomes a really solid counter there. So
yeah, Sableye beats all of the tackle users. I'm pretty sure it can get away with down a shield versus some of them. Because tackle.
That's going to be the thing. It's going to be another one where what we had this month, where we choose whether we want to run tackle Greedent, bullet seed Greedent. I actually ran into somebody running bite Greedent against me.
Oh wow!
It really threw me for a second.
And then you realised it was bad, and you were fine.
Well, yeah, they swapped it into a DD that I was using. And I was like, I don't know how this match is supposed to play out now.
Yeah,
in fact,
if they have tackle, that's not great.
With DD, you win it. It's a bite Greedent.
So, I mean, obviously, Drew's not actually here. He was meant to speak about Ariados, and obviously it shares the typing with Beedrill. It's saying it shares the same slot, which means if you're picking Beedrill, you can't pick Ariados, and vice versa is probably the more important thing. Aaron, can you think of a single reason to run Ariados over Beedrill?
No, probably not.
So the only one that I can think is
go on, Jed.
Something that happened in a Gym Breakers battle that I watched a couple of months ago, and think it was Forged. And obviously the recommended moveset is Lunge and Cross Poison.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a Lunge does enough damage, but it's not going to one-shot anything. But a Mega Horn will. And so for that one time that it works, where somebody no shields a Mega Horn, and then that kind of flips your entire game. So I think just the surprise factor is something that could bring Ariados into use.
I think if you are running that set, definitely, because obviously then the sims get a bit skewed. But from what I've seen, Ariados just loses more than Beedrill across the neutral matchup, simply because it's not got fast move pressure. Sure, you can debuff things, which is really useful. You know, if they weren't restricted, run them both is exactly what I'd say. Which you can't. So, but yeah, you're not hitting. You know, you're going to struggle against the pure poisons. Like I imagine the Muck and Ariados Shadow Muck, and even Swalot probably is interesting. And you know, we could see a couple of them knocking about, especially if people want to take like Umbreon and then run, or Umbreon or Sableye and then run Muck instead of the dark poisons. But also Sableye is slightly better against Ariados. I mean, it doesn't beat it, especially in the ones, but it beats Sableye beats normal Beedrill, doesn't beat Shadow Beedrill. So a lot going on, especially in between the two slots with like Sableye, Umbreon, Ariados, Beedrill. Those matchups I think will be really important because obviously then they define how you're going to build the rest of your team against the other restricted picks.
I think you touched on something interesting as well there, Aaron, about things like Ariados losing more games because of not having the fast move pressure. Like fast move pressure is going to be important here because there isn't anything to do this. Bloody hell, scared the shit out of me. What was that?
As well.
Yeah, because there's nothing that resists Beedrill's charge moves as you touched on. And then also there's nothing to resist wild charge apart from other electric types.
Yes.
So being able to fast move pressure down, fast move down Beedrill and being able to fast move down Electivire, Raikou, is Luxray before they can spam off that extra wild charge is going to be important. And yeah, I just between Beedrill having Poison Jab and Exeter, you see Beedrill doing that much better, right? So
yeah. The only thing that resists wild charge in this is Parasect. And if anybody runs that, they deserve to be beating electric types because it's so bad.
Yeah.
Don't say that because now you know Callum's going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Which means I don't have to worry about him if I go this month.
Would it surprise you to know that despite Callum being involved in this, we can't run mono bug anymore? Like there's bugs, like slots 2 and 3 are optional, so you could forgo those for bugs. I mean, Beach was a bug, right? So, but you could forgo slot 3 and pick a bug type. There, but there's none of the bug electrics are included. So, yeah. Okay. Well, Jake,
He's going to be upset.
Well, he'll pick Electivire, won't he?
Right. So he does like Electivire, yeah. Right. So we ever so slightly touched on my pick a couple of minutes ago with something Aaron said. One of the things I like to do when I get asked on these is to see what other people have already picked, and then I kind of look at them, look at what beats them, look at what they beat, all that kind of stuff, and I kind of give the alternate viewpoint to what other people have done. And so, in mention of was Pangoro and was what else was there? We were talking about Armaldo and there's something else.
Skuntank, the Danny? No,
might be not. Yeah. Anyway, my pick is kind of a split choice between regular and Shadow Kanto Muck. I used Shadow Muck in Architect and I would say it was on 80% of my lines of 3 for the entire month, just because of how good it was at cleaning up when you can farm something down with those poison jabs and just go nuts with it. But I'm going to make it a little bit different because in this cup, absolutely nothing takes super effective from Dark Pulse. So why bother? Run Poison Jab, Thunder Punch, and Acid Spray.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I
So,
like that.
because nothing's taking super effective from Dark, it's useless. There's a lot more resisting it than there is it's even neutral against. So you want to get your fast move damage in, you go Acid Spray. And then there's a lot of water types around for some reason in an electric cup that are going to take super effective from the Thunder Punches. And Thunder Punch is a crap move, as I've already said. But when you add that with the fast move damage of Poison Jab, it all kind of adds up into a really good place where you can just either you can kind of choose whether you want to flip switch or not. And if you choose not to, then you can, get a little bit of farm when the next one comes in, and then that can snowball into bigger and more important things for you. So I think I personally would recommend the Shadow, just because if you're gonna want fast move damage, that 20% extra poison jab is gonna hurt. And then as well, if you add an acid spray on top of that, it's gonna be big damage very quickly. Yeah, that's me. What do you think?
Aaron, do you want to go?
Great.
Oh, we've lost him.
Yeah.
No, we've lost you.
No, I mean I could tell what you were saying, but I couldn't hear you. Do you want to go first, Matt?
Sure, I'll go first. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting comparison to it in Architect. I used it in Architect. It was great. Like it can soak up damage for a long time. But I think you're raising a great point in that it might play slightly differently here. We don't have Pelipper on every team here. We don't have lots of Gyarados running around here to be like one shot with the Thunder Punch. Yeah, I can see how on the Shadow the Acid Spray is a nice play. I just wonder, I remember there were games where I would be able to really dent a Beedrill with a Dark Pulse. And you don't necessarily have to lose that to win that matchup, but you can dent the Beedrill with the Dark Pulse before it gets to a Driller Run if it switches in on you, because obviously Beedrill's a muck counter, right? But it doesn't stop it from taking a whole lot of damage from a Dark Pulse. And if you drop that, all of a sudden muck into Beedrill is terrible. So I see the play. I see how it's going to be a really solid way of perhaps forcing switch if you need it into something like an Umbreon or a green or a tackle cast form perhaps, or something like that. But yeah, I think it almost becomes a different mon, doesn't it? It's like when you see something like Lapras or Hypno have its shadow form, and then typically it plays fairly similarly, but flips a couple of matchups either way. Like Shadow Muck with Acid Spray, it really becomes a different mon. I think it's a really interesting point.
Yeah. Is my sound back now?
Yeah, you're back from the void.
There we go. But yeah, I like Acid Spray on mons with with charge move pressure, because you're not forcing shields with Muck, especially Beedrill. Anyway, you can take a Dark Pulse. Fair enough if they want to go 2 shields down, shield 2 drill runs, they can do that because then they're 2 shields down. And from the way the meta looks, you need shields, you need energy. But yeah, it's an interesting idea. I'd like to see it with something like Sludge Wave maybe as well, just for stab nuke over Dark Pulse, which is not
So
fairly okay move.
are you saying?
I think I'd
you saying
run Sludge Wave.
acid spray and sludge?
Oh no,
Or are
you need
saying
Thunder Punch.
and stuff? Okay, right.
You need. Well, you can do that. And I can't think of anything that's terribly much worse. I mean, Dark Poisons, Beedrill obviously resists it, but it won't. Yeah, I wonder how many of them we're going to see. You know, it'll be the water types that obviously you'll struggle against. Barbaracle, which is you're resisting the Fury Cutters unless they're running Mud Slap, which you're losing anyway.
But as a Shadow Muck user for Architect, Jake, you'll know that Shadow Muck into Lapras, for example, isn't actually the matchup you want it to be. It's still a neutral matchup because of the bulk of the water types, right? And something like Politoed can outspam you as well to some extent. So I see the point. I see the point of having Thunder Punch there, but and I would agree that you have to have it. But I think we should be clear that it's not a. It's doing 80% to Pelipper, but it's not doing that to Lapras.
You lose to Barbaracle even with Thunder Punch in the ones. I'm pretty sure they have to bait Stone Edge.
Oh yeah, they must have to
land Stone Edge, but you're not winning it anyway. I'm just kidding.
Oh, we've lost you again, Aaron. This episode's going well, isn't it?
We've lost a person, and Aaron keeps disappearing with sound.
Yeah.
That should have fixed it.
Yeah, we're back. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. It just outpaces you.
But the Barbaracle, right? Again, like you were saying, like Beedrill's so strong, Polygraph's solid competition. It's going to take a real argument for me to say that I'm going to run Barbaracle. To be fair,
I think it's
Sorry, mate.
Go on. I'll let you finish, and then I'll say it afterwards.
I was just say to be fair, if there's someone out there that can come up with a strategy, I can see it being devastating. Like if someone like Stone Collection goes and gets a 7-0 with Barbaracle, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah.
But I think for the average player,
Barbaracle's in the same slot as a lot of good picks.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you are right that you're gonna. Yeah, Beedrill, Seeking seems iffy to me, but it's also in the same slot as Muck. It's one of the same slots as Muck. So,
I think it's kind of insulting that Barbaracle's been put in that slot, because it is. You look at that slot in order of sort of usefulness, and you've got Beedrill, Poly like at the top, then Ariados and Celio, and then maybe Sneasel if anybody wants to build one, and then Barbaracle. And I just look at it and I go, you could be a free pick. Like it would be on a lot of teams probably as a Beedrill answer, but putting one of the best Beedrill answers in the Beedrill slot is questionable. Like it's very good as a Beedrill answer.
Choose whether you want a Beedrill or if you want to beat the people who are bringing Beedrill.
I'd rather just play the mirror and play the bait game. Because even with Barbaracle, you have to bait to beat Beedrill.
True.
Which, Beedrill no shielding a X Scissor in the mirror isn't as bad as it no shielding a cross chop, which is double resisted from a non-stab mon.
That's a really good point. Yeah,
I'm sure you can just never bait always or whatever and just land all the Stone Edges when they don't shield. But if they shield the Stone Edge, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's true. Because it's not like you've got any fast.
You're not really farming anything down. Yeah. Fury Cutter, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty poor.
Unless it's a Malamar.
Actually, right? Hold on here. Doesn't Barbaracle get Water Cut?
Yes. It gets Water Gun, Mud Slap, and
Mudslap, Fury
Yuriko.
Cutter.
We've got there's some fast move pressure there with water gun. I mean, it's still not nice, but you probably win twos.
Isn't water gun just a lick clone? And I wouldn't say lick.
If you want fast move pressure, run Mudslap.
Yeah,
but
Mudslap
it's
is
not-
definitely the fast move.
But it's not stab though. I bet water gun's
True.
better. I'm just
It's
running some
not.
sims.
But what are the stats on those two?
Oh yeah, water gun's far superior to Mudslap. It just looks at the sims. Like, yeah, water gun you can two shield and you can just two shield water gun down, and then come out with
against
full
which
full
energy. What is this against?
Shadow B.
Against Beedrill.
Yeah, Shadow B.
With water gun. Yeah, Mudslap is awful. Let's have a look at water gun.
You can water gun it down, two shield, even if
So,
they won't reach 3 X's. So you come out with half health and 99 energy. So what's taking 2 stone edges? You're getting your shields back.
True.
Poliwrath.
But they can't have Poliwrath and
They
Beedrill.
can't run Poliwrath and Beedrill, yeah. I mean, they are
Umbreon.
a turn away from, but you got cross chop. I know it's not stab, but still.
Oh, you can't possibly throw the energy.
Umbreon's going to say.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're 2 shields down, so they just come in, sack something, farm you down with like a Sableye, and then they sweep you.
But the thing is, if they've already lost the Beedrill, if they then sack something, you're down. They're down to their last mon, and you've still got another Stone Edge and 2 mons.
Bringing some.
No, because you're not taking things out. You're not taking things out with 1 Stone Edge. You've got to use both of them.
Fair enough.
You'd have to use both.
Unless it's a Shadow Electivire, but then you could probably still just water gun through it.
Or go triple cross drop in that section.
So they can double price on jockey.
Oh, we've lost Aaron to the void again.
If you want Aaron.
That should have fixed it again.
It makes a change from it being me.
It does, doesn't it? It does.
But yeah, I mean, if they bring in something like Raikou or Shadow Raikou straight afterwards, and they're not running Thundershock like an idiot, and they want the fast move pressure of Volt Switch, how many Volt Switches does it take to kill after a Beedrill's poison jabbed you and taken both as your shields? It's probably 2.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah.
And then that thing's up energy and nothing walls it.
No, that was a really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Are you thinking Shadow Beedrill?
Yeah.
Yeah, being able to.
I mean, against normal Beedrill probably beats Water Gun.
Yeah, it does.
In the twos, because it'll get to a third. It'll get to a third X figure.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think I'm pretty sure Shadow B is better versus Umbreon, and it's definitely better versus Sableye. So I think you're right. I think you have to. I think if you've got Shadow B available, I think you go Shadow B.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well,
so you come out of it with 53 health, which is probably a couple of Volt Switches.
If we're saying Raikou's the hardest hitting Volt Switcher, right?
I assume we're going Shadow Raikou. If you're going to use it, you may as well use it.
Yeah, if you've got it, it'll be getting run.
It's going to be 3 Volt Switches, I reckon. Yeah, 3 Volt Switches. Yeah,
it's 3 Volt Switches. Yeah. Each one does 18 damage, which is 16% of a thing.
That's worse though.
It is worse.
They come out with a move.
But what?
Yeah.
But so that's what 12 turns. So I mean, you can get to a cross chop in that time, but
you get to 3 cross chops. Yeah, you throw like 3. You throw 3 water guns, and then throw.
Yeah, you can do 3 cross chops.
But still, just don't run water gun on Barbarical because you'll lose to Beedrill in everything that's not the 2s.
Well, it's kind of like Quillfish as well. Like Quillfish is there unrestricted and has a similar situation with water gun.
It looks good, small does Quillfish.
You can water gun through the 2s with Beedrill if you want. Like if I'm running Quillfish, I'm definitely running water gun because Like, yes, you get to the Aqua Tails faster with Poison Sting, but like,
but
it's not really. Even with Stab, it's not going to really do any significant damage to the Beedrill, and you kind of want the reliability there. So okay, well, while we've lost our Into the Void again, we'll, and the first call's running out, so we'll pause here for a minute.
Reconvene.
Yeah, we'll reconvene. Maybe our mystery guest will join us at some point.
Imagine if he shows up now.
Yeah, it's like, we're done, mate. Fuck off.
Yep.
So after a lovely little break, still no Drew. So we'll go on to my pick, which is, and I can't believe we both didn't mention Pokedex numbers. Like, that's truly disgusting. I'm going to go with Pokedex number 9. So I didn't even have to look that up, which was nice. Which is Blastoise. I haven't done any sims. I'm not going to tell you how many things it beats in the one shields, how many things it beats in the zeros with a 14 water gun advantage. I'm just going to say it's a really good mon, because we talked about the fast move pressure and water gun. Like, people bash water gun. I think it's really, really solid. Like, yes, it's not got amazing stats, but it really makes up for that in a one turn fast move. Like, when you think about the electric types, Electivire and Luxray don't have wild charge, which sort of reduces the amount of damage they can do to you with fast moves. But the ones that do have Volt Switch, sorry, what was that?
Electivire has wild charge.
Sorry, yeah, I meant Volt Switch. Yeah, sorry, yeah, I meant Volt Switch. Yeah, so the ones that don't have Volt Switch are sort of struggling to put on some fast move pressure, so you're not really going to get farmed down. Blastoise is fairly bulky. But the ones that have Volt Switch, you can. There's going to be moments where you snipe them, where you get that Hydro Cannon in before they get to the wild charge, because of Volt Switch being 4 turns, and there's going to be moments where you faint them down as they get to the Volt Switch, as they get to the wild charge, because because of it being 4 turns. It also just straight up beats to Dene in the one shields. So, like, I think if ever there's a testament to Blastoise's bulk, and to the fact that electric isn't always the counter to water that you want it to be, I think Blastoise beating the Dene in the ones is kind of there. You're beating Beedrill in the ones and zeros. You're beating Shadow Beedrill in the zeros. You can stick on Skull Bash to hit other Lapras, other Blastoise, other Poliwrath, other Politoed pretty strong. Those things typically aren't hitting you back particularly well either, with the possible exception of Poliwrath. You beat Umbreon in the ones because Hydro Cannon is busted. Like, what neutral mon beats Umbreon? Like, you really, like, I'm not even just talking in this cup, I'm talking full stop. Like, you don't get many neutral mons beating Umbreon. And if they do, they tend to rely on a community day sort of power charge move like a Venusaur with Frenzy Plant does, right? So, Blastoise is an absolute beast.
Pretty sure all of the Gen 1 starters now beat Umbreon neutrally since they had buffed wing attack, which is just ridiculous.
It's pretty cool. And I mean, there's other bulky water types, right? There's Lapras, which is also legitimately good. It doesn't quite have the shield pressure that Blastoise has, even if it's a little bit faster to the surf and a little bit bulkier. I think because of the way this meta is, water types, whilst it's nice to have the bulk, only a certain level of bulk is useful, because the extra bulk that Lapras has over Blastoise, for example, isn't saving it from a second wild charge. whereas the extra power Blastoise has over Lapras keeps up the neutral matchups that you might that Lapras you might think Lapras might gain because of the extra bulk, if that makes sense. Yeah. So there we go. Number 9, Blastoise, beast of a man. Thoughts?
I think finding neutral mons outside the electrics here is really rough. Like everything sort of has a counter here and there. Plus a lot of the electrics, they've been whacked in that first slot. So you're not going to see teams with double electric unless they're running, arguably a horror electric type, because I don't think there are many outside of that first lot.
I don't think there's any.
Are they all in that first lot?
Yeah.
There's 6 in the entire cup.
Yeah.
Right, then you're not going to see double electric at all.
The only things that there's some electric coverage, but there's no other electric types. You've got Porygon 2, Line, and Muck.
She's Minim in that first 6.
Yeah, so it's Minim over Zeb Striker. There was some confusion around the graphics. So right, so it's not Zeb Striker, it's Minim there. Yeah.
That's fine then, yeah. So you're not going to see double electric outside of electric coverage.
No.
So you're not getting super effective damage from much else, because I don't think there's much grass coverage knocking about. Bullet Seed on green doesn't count. Cast Form with Energy Ball is just the worst normal type.
Yeah.
Linoon, fair enough. It's picking up Stable Eye, but it's just no stab. And it's got a fast move that gets double resisted by other normals.
Yeah, and it's worth saying that Linoon has Thunder anyway, so it's kind of like it doesn't really count. Well, it does, right? But it doesn't count as both at the same time. It's
yeah. They're not going to be running Dig. Although, if you want to beat Dark Poisons with Linoon, I could see it being used.
And if you want to beat the electrics,
it's a terrible move unless they buff it.
Would you some buffs? To be fair, there will be some move changes before this cup starts. So.
Dig
buff. As long as they don't do anything too crazy.
Yeah, like the mons in this cup are all fairly balanced, right? There's nothing with that. But even when you look at the moves that are in this cup, there's no that are prominent within this cup. There's no real reason to expect something to be buffed or debuffed.
I don't think they're going to buff or debuff Poison Jab or Shadow Claw because they're too widely spread, and they've already gone after Poison.
There is the case that could be made that Wing Attack didn't really need a buff, and yet they still made it broken.
Yeah,
true.
But they could throw anything at us in 5 days' time.
Is that when we find out? Don't we get a bit more notice than that?
We'll get an update, but the actual moves will come out on March 1st.
Oh right, okay. That sounds dangerous. That's the meta team hasn't even got time to respond and say, actually, no, Pangoro's fully broken now.
They're giving it counter.
Yeah, that's it. Oh shit! Can you imagine?
Does anything else get counter in Night Slash?
Primate.
Surfet.
Primate.
Yes, Primate.
But they don't have close combat. Oh no, Primate does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Primate does.
Yeah,
it's just
Primate. It's weak to confusion and doesn't like ghosts, though, is it? Whereas Pangoro kind of
doesn't care.
And the double fairy weakness would be a thing. But a couple of things I do have to say. I would be very disappointed with you if you couldn't immediately say what Pokédex number 9 was.
Yeah. I put a lot of pressure on myself
number
to get it right because I didn't look it up. I just went off intuition. So like there was a bit of pressure on myself there. But
I'm a measly 80 behind you with number 89. Bit belated, but it's fine. And then
15.
Beedrill?
Yeah, is that 12 or 15?
Yeah, it's 15.
15, yeah, okay.
Go on, how many can you name? What's 387?
387?
27.
Oh, 327. Oh, I can tell you that. I can tell you 387. I think that's Trico, isn't it?
Let's find out, shall we?
I've never wanted to be right about something more.
No, it's not. It's Turtle.
Oh, no, that's what I meant. Yeah, I just got my generations mixed
Oh
up.
yeah, you meant that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I just got my generations mixed up. Yeah.
327 is Spinder.
Okay.
In case you're all wondering.
And is
Yeah.
Spinder
Anyway,
is Spinder eligible here, Jake?
Genuinely, I have no idea.
It's
I
not.
haven't looked
So
online.
it's not.
All right, well.
It's kind of worthless.
Thanks for telling me, Mr. Meta Designer. The one thing I was going to say is that the difference, the comparison between Blastoise and Lapras. When you were saying about how Lapras has that little bit of extra bulk, as opposed to the extra firepower that Blastoise has, I have found out this month that, like, while yes, that extra bulk is really helpful in sometimes, that extra bulk can be really detrimental sometimes as well. Because the instance I've had this month was with Greedent, just living a few too many extra fast moves, and then there's nothing you can do because they've got a billion energy, and yeah, you kind of just screwed after that. So I think in this instance, the Lapras being able to take a couple of extra Thunder Shocks or a couple of extra Volt Switches and stuff, that's really going to impact the next matchup, because then your opponent's going to come out of the Lapras with 3 Volt Switches, and 3 Volt Switches is enough for a Wild Charge. And I think you discussed on the last one, but there's nothing that particularly wants to handle Wild Charge in this cup.
No.
So I like the idea of Blastoise, and you were saying about the one-turn fast move and how that will kind of, I don't want to say sneak in, but
It'll save you.
It will. It'll save, and it will make the longer term fast moves will be somewhat detrimental against the one turns, as we've seen in the past, like Dragon Breath, Fusion kind of thing. What would you? So you were saying how Blastoise has some degree of move flexibility. I believe.
No, I don't think it does.
Oh, okay, go on.
I think it's Skull Dash all the way. Like, otherwise you're walled by the water types.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how many water types do you see showing up?
Well, that's the question. That's because I don't think there will be many. But at the same time, what do you need anything else for?
Yeah, you're not hitting anything.
Yeah, I guess.
You're not hitting anything.
Yeah, okay. Parasect is your only one, and even then, a Skull Dash is going to kill it. So,
I'll take that risk. I'll take that risk.
A Hydro cannon kill it.
So I think Blastoise, particularly if you want to lead with an electric type, nuke something and take a shield, or just kill something, then you're a shield up with Blastoise, and then you could, it's kind of it's difficult to come back from that. I think it's got a lot. Do you know what? I think this cup's going to take a lot of. There are some cups where you can, like Rose Cup, for example. I know it's a long way back now, but you could look at Rose Cup and say games are going to play out like this.
Yeah.
I really struggle to see that with this cup. I really struggle to see how games are going to play out and how best to use the various mods.
Yeah, I think once you
I
start.
think there's going to be some. Go on, Aaron.
Go on, Jay. Now you can go.
Okay. I think there's going to be some later in the month picks that people start throwing in as a reactionary measure, because I don't see Milotic as being particularly big to begin with, but I think it's one of those things where it's a really good neutral one, so you can kind of just do whatever you need to do with it, and I can see that picking up usage later on.
Yeah,
and the Skull Dash is going to come into play there. yeah, I can see. Yeah.
Yeah. So what were you
Go
going
on,
to say?
sorry,
What were
Aaron.
you going to say, Aaron? Yeah.
I was gonna say when you start adding energy and shields to the mons that look good, or we assume are gonna get brought, like all bets are off. With the possible safe switches, like there are so many. Like safe swapping Umbreon if they've not got Poliwrath. Doesn't matter what bug type they've got because they're all fairly soft.
Mm.
There's no fighting. Dedenne is what, the only fairy?
Yeah.
And that's just Umbreon. Then you've got Sableye in there, which is one of the best safe swaps in the game outside of, like, regardless of the league it's in.
Mm.
Beedrill, we've mentioned. Ariados, which Drew was going to talk about. That thing with energy, given how fast it charges, is really dangerous. One we've not touched on, Celio, that thing is terrifying on the swap. It's his wall rain before, slightly different damage wise with the body slam versus icicle spear, but still, it's got more bulk. That thing gets to a lot of moves. And all the electrics are frail. There's not much bulk on any of them. I think the bulkiest one there is
Probably
Minun.
mining. Probably mining.
Yeah, probably that thing has some bulk.
Yeah.
Outside of that, they're all soft. Dedenne loses to water types. Ampharos, Luxray, Electivire, and Raikou are some of the softest mons in the game. Plus, all of them outside of Ampharos have to use Wild Charge to kill water types, which means you win the twos if they don't bait, or they're forced to swap out, especially with like Blastoise. You could even run Water Gun on Celio here. I don't think it's a good idea, but that fast move pressure will add up, and you get to Body Slam quicker than you get to Hydro Cannon.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
You probably do well against the other waters as well outside Poliwrath.
Probably, probably more so than Milotic, in fact, because a big problem Milotic has in other water matchups is, yes, the Dragon Tail damage hurts, but
you can't throw anything.
You've got to go to Hyper Beam. Yeah, you've either got to go to Hyper Beam or you just got to hit them consistently with Surf. And there's merits to doing that, because if you don't go up to Hyper Beam and you just go straight Surf, they're never going to shield. So you can guarantee that you can win Switch at the expense of the shield, perhaps if needed. But like we've been saying, I don't think Switch is massively important here. More often than not. Well, it depends, right? If I've got a Sableye and you've got a beat then an Umbreon, then maybe it is. So there's those sort of considerations, but it's not like it's going to be, Charizard versus Meganium levels of Switch being important. Yeah. But cool. Well,
I think managing your health is like, you talk about managing shields and energy, which sort of but then you have to like manage your health quite a bit in terms of, say they've got something in the back like Tackle Munchlax. If you force yourself into, you go into that middle matchup, your lead mons are gone, and you come out of that on even footing, and you've still got both shields, both of you, and they have Munchlax in the back with Tackle. There's very little that's going to win the twos against that without already being a winning matchup in the other shield scenarios. So there is that sort of, do I commit a shield here just to keep half a mon so you can 2v1 whatever's in the back, give them shield advantage, and you try beat them that way. I think that making sure you know what they could have in the back to stop them sort of just, like when you see teams that obviously have Charm in the back, you're just going to shield early on because you can just overwhelm them in the back with two mons. I think you could see quite a bit of that happening here as well.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. What kind of double normal? Maybe a tackle.
Double tackle.
Yeah, double tackle with.
Well, we've seen that this month. We've seen that this month with Milk Tank and Greedent, and it's been on so many teams. And like the second one has tackle, the other one probably has tackle. I've seen a lot, but it's like I've seen a lot. If the Milk Tank has tackle, the Greedent almost certainly does, because you want roll over. And like Scissor's been loving it this month for me, and it's one of the reasons why, because they're just resisting the tackles. But double tackle is, I don't like it. You just sort of lock yourself into, like, the wins are not, you're not farming anything down. You're not getting a lot of energy. It's just fast move pressure. It's like when you see double dragon breath teams. They're kind of predictable.
Yeah, and it might work. It might work once in game one, but once you know that once your opponent knows that you're happy to bring that, then they can play around it. Yeah. I mean, there's no guarantee it'll even work once, right? That's the the important thing.
And then you've revealed those potential like fast moves. I mean, Hex on cast form isn't even bad here.
No, it's not.
You're just worse against the other normals, but you probably threaten Poliwrath. It doesn't one shot you. I'm pretty sure the regular one. I will say Dedenne gets tackle, which is interesting. I mean, it's probably
but you want to run.
Yeah,
you're going to want
shock. You want
Thundershock, you probably want Thundershock, but
that's
given there's
interesting.
nothing really,
I didn't know that. That's potentially something to look out for in the future.
There are not many tackle users, but there are a few.
Yeah.
One of them I won't mention because it's Beware, and I fucking hate it. So anybody runs it, don't talk to me.
Fair enough.
Well, it's available as a wild card, isn't it? So it's available in 5.
It's a free spot. Yeah, it's a free spot.
It is, yeah. Don't use it. It's so bad.
I'm not going to use it. I hate Beware as well. So
what's wrong with Beware?
It's useless. People ran it in a
not
pellet.
useless.
It's useless.
I have the exact opposite problem with it. That it beat my entire team, and I hated that.
Fair enough.
That's kind of a team building issue, though, right?
It was, but it wasn't. It was nowhere to be found. No one was using it, so I didn't plan for it. And then it came up, and I was like, "Oh well, here we go."
That's fair.
It's one of them things that it beats a lot of things in the zeros on the Switch because 2 stomps with stab is probably is enough to beat a lot of things. It's kind of a really, really poor man's figure off in that sense.
It'd be an interesting one to see who'd win versus Sableye and Beware, because everything is resistant, isn't it?
Beware wins, but you have to probably bait Stomp.
Yeah, that's kind of a really nasty matchup because there's a return as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure Saberline needs the return if they call the moves right. They probably just straight foul play because 2 will take it out probably.
A foul play does 31%. A return does 78.
Okay, so like one of each would be plenty. So
yeah, that's cool. A weird.
Well, let's not give anyone too many Beware based ideas because we don't want Aaron to get too upset. But
don't remember what.
Yeah, fair enough. Pangoro is the way, I think, if you're going to go.
Yeah, I'd say if you're going to run a fighter, it's going to be either Poliwrath or Pangoro.
Yeah,
Pangoro is
one of those ones where it's an issue with availability, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it was in the wild at, was it GoFest?
Yeah, but you'd have to get a good one, and you'd have to get one that was low enough level.
But it's
I got lucky enough to get one that was low enough level.
But it's so frail. It's one of those ones where IVs are really kind of pushing it as to whether they matter or not. Like IVs on bulkier ones obviously are important, but like on the fragile side of things,
if it's low enough level, it's good enough.
Precisely. Yeah. Cool. Oh well. On that note, we'll leave it then. Let's just check to make sure Drew's not woken up. No. Okay.
Still nothing.
Still nothing. Well, we wish you all the best, and I thank him for his appearance tonight. But
you made some valuable contributions.
More valuable than he normally makes, to be fair. Like he's not sat here going on about how upset he is that Galvantula's not in it when there's electric types, right? So, yeah.
And he didn't chime in about Mankey when we mentioned Primate earlier.
That's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Oh, bless him. All right. Well, cheers, guys, and yeah, good luck with the month.
Thanks for having us. Cheers.
Cheers.